Hello and welcome to the Pod of the Damned. I'm your host Ian. I say joining me always is our co-host Nico, but Nico, this is like, what, the third episode you've actually done this year?
I know, it's fucking, well, it is just the start of the year, but yes.
I mean, you say this is the start of the year.
It's
We're very nearly at the end of February. In fact, when this comes out, we will have already had 2 months of the year. So, you know, you've missed a bit of chunk. You've missed a chunk there, Nico.
I blame you, it's fine.
Okay, that's fine. How are you anyway?
I'm good, yourself?
I'm very, very good. Also, for those who maybe didn't check out the episode that we released last week, you may see that we have, or you know, have been living under a rock and not following us on any of our social media platforms. We have a brand new co-host here. Very familiar to people who have listened to this podcast before. It's Candy, the final girl. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. You're officially, we did obviously your intro episode last week, and we had a really fun discussion. You know, I really only meant for that to go like half an hour, to be like a really short thing. And we record, I think the audio I released...
I'm bad at that.
I think the audio I released was an hour and a half, but we actually chatted for about 4 hours that day.
Yeah.
But how are you?
No regrets.
Welcome to the team, your first proper episode.
I'm very excited and thank you. And I'm good. It's just a lazy Sunday morning. It's like noon now, but yeah.
I think this is my first, like, I've been on holiday from work this week, and I think this is the first day where I've not left the house to go and do things. And so I said to myself, well, this is going to be my lazy day. And then I realized that we probably have about 4 hours worth of recording to do. And then I, go and edit and I do all the things. But anyways, so not really that lazy a day.
I'm sorry.
No. We need to record it for our listeners. They want to listen. But welcome, Candy, to the show. Welcome back, Nico. Very happy to have you back. I'm so happy to see you, Nico. We disproved the myth that we're not actually friends.
You said that yesterday.
Yeah, I was so happy to see.
Yeah, I liked your deep fake.
Anyway.
Hello.
Anyway, we are the Pod of the Damned, and in today's show, we're talking all about Army of the Dead, which is Nico's pick. It's your last pick before we enter this sort of new rotation. Obviously, including Candy and some of your choices that you're going to be doing with us. We'll get into why you chose Army of the Dead in just a minute. But if anyone would like to follow us across our social media platforms, you can do so. We're on X at Damn Podcast. Facebook and Instagram is Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. So, Nico, why did you pick Army of the Dead? Why did you feel like you wanted to make us suffer and have to go through this movie?
Yeah.
Because folk were talking about it, said it was like the best zombie movie that was out, and I'm like, I really don't think it was, because I watched it drunk, so I didn't really remember it, and I did remember I didn't really fancy watching it again.
So like, you thought you'd pick it? I don't really want to watch this movie, but I'll pick it.
Yeah,
because I was like, because I don't remember it. Like, I was like, I remember the start. The start was good, but as I said, I watched it drunk, so that was it. That was all I remembered. The start was good, so I'm like, maybe I should give it a chance. But yeah, then I realised why I probably fell asleep watching it. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to say thank you. I think from early indications in this episode, I think the listeners can pretty much gather where we are all at with this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of disagreements. There may be some bits and pieces here and there. Candy, what about you? What's your sort of like overalls, just sort of bullet points, thoughts of Army of the Dead before we sort of deep dive into it?
Well, I remembered hearing about it, and when it was posted in our chat, like, we're going to watch this, I was like, why hadn't I seen that? I remember about it, but like hearing something, or I was going to watch it. And then Sean has been like, oh yeah, I watched it. It was pretty good. And now usually I know his taste really well. We've been together a very long time, raised children together and all that shit. And I sit down to watch it, and he's like, so, he's kind of giving me a little overview, like, there's like zombies, and it's Zack Snyder who did Dawn of the Dead. Good indicator for me. I liked his Dawn of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And then there's a heist, and I'm like, wait, that's a lot going on there, buddy. We started it, and I could immediately tell, like, this is gonna suck. I'll get into that more later, but I was like, this is why I didn't watch it. I remember now. I had blocked it from my memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to mine then, because I saw the follow up. You know, the prequel, the what is it, Thieves or whatever it's called.
Army of
Then
Thieves, I think.
Army
Anyway,
of Thieves. That's it. Yeah, I actually like that,
I
but this is just
I
fucking
actually
hell.
I
It's
actually
awful.
forgot that Army of Thieves even existed. I hadn't watched this. I remember it coming out, and I remember being like a load of hype. Obviously, it's like a Netflix original movie, and I remember being like loads and loads of hype about it. But again, I feel like I say this all the time now, but it was just one of those ones for me that sort of slipped through the net, and I didn't really get round to it. And then you picked it, Nico, and I watched it about 3 weeks ago for the first time. And yeah, I have some thoughts and I have some feelings. But before we do it, we'll deep dive into it in just a second. I want to get your guys' predictions. Obviously, Nico, you're very familiar with our leaderboard. Candy, I don't know how familiar. I do vaguely remember
You
saying.
say that. You say that. I'm on the shows and I remember it occasionally,
Yeah,
but
well,
yeah,
you
not
have a
that
rough idea
familiar
of where
with it.
things are. Candy, I do remember saying to you that I was going to send you the leaderboard and I haven't, so apologies for that. But I'll let you have a crack at this as well. Where do you guys think, taking what we've just said, what you think the listeners are going to say, what you think the critics are going to say, whereabout do you think Army of the Dead's going to land on our leaderboard? Bearing in mind, this is our 96th movie that we've covered on the show.
I'm going to say bottom quarter.
Bottom quarter, so we're looking...
Yeah, I'd say like 70 odd.
Yeah, so we're looking at rounds anywhere between... I mean, obviously, I know where it currently sits, and because I'm looking at the stats right now, so I'm not going to say too much, but we're saying around the sort of 70th mark. So that would put it... And this is one of the things that always gets me the leaderboard. So let's just say it does land in 70th. That's going to be in there with movies like Halloween 2, Terrifier, because I have to bring it up. Critters, Saw 2, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. That's the sort of movies that's in that area just now.
I can agree with that.
Ooh.
Scouts, Guide, and Critters. I'd rather watch them too.
I mean,
And as much as I don't like Critters, I'd still rather watch Critters for sure.
Yeah.
right.
I love Critters.
Well, with that being
Critters
said...
2 is better.
Yeah, agreed.
See, look, the family is agreeing with each other already. Like it's meant to be.
Oh, I can sort that. Don't worry.
Oh, I know you will. Let's get into it then and talk about today's movie. We're talking all about Army of the Dead. This movie was released in 2021, was directed by Zack Snyder, and stars Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, and Ana de la Reguera. I don't have an IMDb plot because for some reason I forgot to add it to my notes. So, Nico, do you want to give us since you chose it, do you want to give us a little overview about what this movie is about for our listeners?
It's a zombie movie where the zombie apocalypse starts in Vegas and they're about to nuke Vegas. So they do a heist movie and a zombie movie together.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Candy, you're like the expert for all things of the dead. Obviously, this is not a part of the classic of the Dead sort of franchise.
No. Romero would spin in his undead graves, I guess.
Well, yeah. What?
It's enough to start the zombie apocalypse.
I'll start one because of this movie. Yeah.
Obviously, we've all given our overall thoughts. Is there anything redeeming about this movie for you?
No.
I like the start. I like the premise of it. That's about it.
What you like the start?
Can I interject, or are we talking?
No,
I'm sorry, I'm still a little unfamiliar. Can I jump in for a sec?
Of course.
I think the start is good, but it's very much like Snyder is saying, "Hey, remember me? I directed the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, and it started kind of like this, and we used the Richard Cheese song in it. Yeah, you remember that, right? Now here's another zombie movie."
So you mentioned the song there, right? And I know obviously, Nico, you're saying you quite like the opening. I don't hate the opening scene and then that big sort of like montage, but I hate slowed down versions of popular songs in movies. Like, I really, really fucking hate it. And when we talk about like next week's movie, there's a song in it at the beginning, and it's in the original version of a song, and it's so much better. And, I think given, the money that they actually spent in this movie, which is mind-blowing how much money this movie was made for, just maybe get the original songs, but we have like a really terrible cover of Viva Las Vegas in that opening scene. I think there's a really bad cover of Bad Moon Rising at some point during it, which are like, Bad Moon Rising is a great song, which is used to.
It's been covered so many times as well.
Yeah, but it's also just used to great effect in its original form in American Werewolf in London, which is a movie we've talked about before. So it's not like it's some sort of like unattainable song that no one can put in their fucking movies. It's been done before. Just fucking put it back in your movie. But the fact that we have this really terrible cover, it just irritates me. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with putting a cover of a song, but it just bugs me.
Well, I feel like it's a
weird you
definite
say
throwback. Like I said before, because the Richard Cheese slowed down version of Disturbed's Down with the Sickness was used in Dawn of the Dead. And he's like, I brought Richard Cheese back, who does like these lounge versions of popular songs, like he did WAP, which is hilarious. But then, to this version of Viva Las Vegas isn't like a slamming hardcore song anyway. Like, yeah, it would have been better just to use the Elvis version, I think.
Yeah. Nico?
Yeah, like it's weird because you said about the song part. I think it's actually really good until the song part. That seems to be the cutoff where this movie just goes straight downhill from there.
So it made it like 6 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
Because that's what I mean by the start. I loved the start. I liked the way that they started it all off. The couple crashing it, the motor, and everything happening there. I liked all that. I thought it was a really good start. But apart from that, yeah.
I think I have issue. Like, so this obviously is a zombie comedy movie. It's supposed to be sort of action and fun, but this movie really tries to tackle so much. The concept of this movie is so much bigger than the type of movie it's trying to be. Obviously, it's trying to give us this sort of whole concept that we've got smart, intelligent zombies, which is not a concept that's not been done before. This kind of concept has been done before, but it's not really been tackled a huge amount. So we have this sort of whole concept of smart, intelligent zombies, and they really do nothing with it. Like, there's nothing really happens with it.
It's weird how he gets that, though.
What?
Like, it's weird how he gets that, because the zombie walks up and sees whatever statue is in Vegas with the toga on, and decides, I'm going to build myself a Roman Empire. And it's just, no.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is just so bizarre to me, because, obviously...
Overly ambitious.
It's so ambitious. Like, I feel like that's a good... Like, if you're going to, like, really, really tackle that kind of subsection of zombie movies, because obviously zombie movies have been fucking done to death. Like, there's hundreds of zombie movies out there, and obviously they're like anything else, they're all of massively varying quality, but we're looking at this sort of little subsection where you're dealing with like intelligent zombies, and I say it's been done before, but it's not been done a huge amount before. Like, and I think in an attempt to like incorporate everything, they've also just ended up making this really, really fucking long movie. This movie is way too fucking long.
It was way too long, especially for not having a lot of plot, or just a lot of plot threads instead of an actual plot, sort of like a plot loaf.
Yeah.
Like, how you make meatloaf? This is a plot loaf. It's not really equates into a plot. It's just a lot of different parts of plots. But I will say, just to conversely go on this, I hated the fucking beginning. Okay, we got Roadhead, which is stupid anyway. I will not die for Roadhead. I will not do it. But also, like, we're assuming that these intelligent zombies came from intelligent humans, right? But we got these soldiers at the beginning, right? And they're fucking dumb. I mean, and it's like, okay, they're bantering in the car, cool, whatever. Like, it might be the Sephiroth or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, sure. And then when everything goes down, the wreck happens, the payload falls and it breaks open and we don't know what's in there. And the guy I don't know what his rank was in the military. I don't know much about the military, but I'm the head soldier guy. He gets on the lady's like, well, stay away from the payload. And suddenly he can't hear or understand words. He's like, huh? The payload is dangerous. What? I mean, 3 times he says, huh? And I'm like, oh my God, it can't be an auditory thing at this part. You're just not understanding how words go. Payload bad, no go. Like, how simple do you have to make it? And then there's a full 5 minutes of buffering in this guy's brain before he gets over to the other soldiers, like, maybe don't touch that. And they're like, what? And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Oh my God. And at that point, I was really starting to deal with the stages of grief. starting with bargaining, like, please get better. And yeah, you can't be that dumb. And then, immediately the ones haunting them, which, like, yeah, we've all played Left 4 Dead, Zack Snyder, thanks. And they can hear every slight sound there. I'm like, yeah, that's the beginning for me.
Well, I think the thing for
See,
me. Sorry, Nico.
No, I see. Like, I get that, but you've got to have somebody dumb to start this apocalypse. Otherwise, it's no fun.
True.
You know what I mean?
I think. Listen,
there's dumb, and then there's dumb.
I think for this kind of movie, having someone dumb at the beginning is absolutely fine because of the type of movie it's trying to be. However, Candy, you're right as well. Like, it takes it to a whole other level of dumb. There's being dumb, and then there's just not being able to, like, speak levels of dumb.
Like, can they breathe and walk at the same time, or is it too much brain power?
I really thought
they've got to have their mouth open to breathe.
I really thought you were going to say, like, Canadians there. Like, there's dumb, and then there's Canadian dumb.
You've been watching too much South Park.
Apologies to any Canadian listeners.
I guess I'm a little nicer to Canada. My mom lived there for 15 years. So I'm like, yeah, they're kind of smarter than us a little bit in America, I think.
I mean, Canada does make up a large portion of our listenership, so apologies to any Canadians out there.
Canada, we like you.
Please don't. And as, no offense, Candy, but speaking as the Scots, one of the two Scottish people, we like you more than we like America.
No,
okay,
there's no links
I'm
with Canada at all. I swear there's no links with Canada. There's not a company in Aberdeen called Can Scott. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I don't know. Okay, right. Before we get into it a bit more, let's talk about Zack Snyder then. Because obviously, Zack Snyder, as you've already mentioned, Candy, directed the remake of Dawn of the Dead. It's one of the better horror remakes out there. I probably wouldn't say it's better.
I agree.
I wouldn't say it's better than its original, but I think it's a damn good film. It's really worth watching.
I go to bat for it every time.
Yeah.
I like it too, to be honest.
So, going into this, obviously knowing it's a Zack Snyder film, it's a zombie movie, you think, it's fine. He kind of knows what he's doing. He's got form. And he just completely shits the bed. Is this I feel like this is possibly one of Zack Snyder's worst movies.
I think it's because of the whole thing with DC, because he was coming off the back of that, and he's like, right, fuck it, I'm doing this. It's the same as that new one he's got, like Rebel Moon. That is genuinely Star Wars with poker and pookers. That's all that is. Like, he's to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I liked it, but he seems to be going right. If you're not letting me do my shit, I'm going to make it even more fucked up, and that's what it seems like he's done here. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to just throw everything at it, and someone's going to stick.
But nothing stuck this time.
Nothing stuck.
How do you feel
exactly, yeah. Apart from Dieter. I like Dieter. That's about it.
Well, yeah.
I kind of like Dieter, but I have a point about him. I don't know if you want me to save that for a minute or...
I am going to come on to Dieter in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, I will bring it up then.
I want us to talk about, like, the comedy aspects of this film, because, you know, they do try sometimes, but I think we'll get into that in just a second.
But I think that's the problem with it. He tries to make it a comedy. He tries to make it a heist movie. He tries to make it a zombie movie. He tries to make it serious. You know what I mean? He's done way too much.
Oh yeah, like there's
this space.
There's easily like 7 different fucking genres in this movie. You know.
Yeah.
And let's not talk about the lens flare, I guess, because I might get my blood pressure is gonna spike every time someone's shooting. They slow it down, put a little lens flare on there. I'm like, listen, J.J. Abrams wannabe, it wasn't good when he did it, and it's worse when you do it.
Well, on that note as well, it does, like, obviously there's this sort of filter that Vegas seems to have, you know, whenever they're in movies, and
dirty.
But this sort of, like,
Vegas was my last trip, and I felt it misrepresented Vegas.
Well, that's it. Like, Vegas, obviously, like, it's always seen as, like, glitzy and glamorous, but it's obviously in the desert, and, you know...
Did you say tits and glamour?
What?
It's that too.
Glitz and glamour.
Oh!
But it is also tits and glamour.
Vegas is also tits and glamour.
It's true.
Yeah.
But no,
I was just there in October.
This is where Nico's mind is at when we're recording episodes.
I think about tits a lot too, to be fair. They're great.
But yeah, anyways, Candy, so obviously, you've obviously already mentioned that you're a fan of Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's version. Like,
Yes.
are you a fan of his in general, or like, is it just?
I don't watch. I'm not a big superhero movie fan. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be one of those people like I hate them or anything. They're just not for me. I'm not the demographic. I've watched some, but a 4 hour cut of the Justice League can fuck all the way off. I'm not going to watch that shit. Plus, I was a Marvel person when I read comics back in high school and shit. So in the 90s when they were really good X-Men stories coming out, but those were all kind of disappointing, and I wasn't going to chance it on DC. So fuck that. No,
Yeah.
I don't watch those. I've only seen the only other movies I've seen was Dawn of the Dead. So I came into it pretty high,
Yeah.
like expecting good, I guess, or better than I got. I guess I don't know.
Well, that's it. That's
Put
what
it
I'm
this way:
saying.
his DC cut was better than Josh Whedon, because they got Josh Whedon to finish it instead of him. And honestly, his cut's better than Josh Whedon. I'll give him that, but it's still not as good as what folk make out. Folk make out it's this great masterpiece and everything.
If you put a gun to my head and said 4 hours of Justice League or death, I'd probably pick death. Like I don't know that I would do that.
Well, I'm a
Sorry.
massive Batman fan, so I liked the stuff he was doing with Batman. He seemed to get that character right, but unfortunately for him, everything else in it was shit.
I'm
He seems to do this. I've noticed in a lot of these films, he seems to get one thing right in it and hope everybody sticks to that, and then tries to change everything else. And stop fucking doing that. It's not right.
What do you think? So was his opening scene the one thing he got right in this film?
That and Dieter. That's it.
The other thing, right, and I will come on to Dieter in just a minute, but the other thing that I think when I was going into this film that really had me hyped, and we talked about this, Nico, when we covered Knock at the Cabin, and obviously Dave Bautista is our main character. He's our star of the movie. And we talked about this when we were like sort of comparing him to some of like other wrestling performers who have made that transition into the mainstream, because a lot of wrestlers are in films, but a lot of them don't make it to the mainstream in terms of movies.
Yeah.
You think of like obviously The Rock, John Cena and Batista are probably your three main.
Roddy
examples.
Piper.
Roddy
I'm
Piper
sorry, maybe that's showing my age, but Roddy Piper is God.
Yeah, Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant did back in the day, but obviously
Piper didn't have a lot of a career though.
No,
he kind of made it possible for people to make the transition with They Live. He made it possible to make the transition to big budget movies. Was he a great actor? No. But did he have charisma and was he fun? Absolutely. They Live is a masterpiece.
Nico, you fucking love
I love Piper. I fucking love Piper. But like I'm just saying, like apart from They Live, there's not fucking much else he was in, is there?
No,
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Oh yeah.
It's a trash classic. I'm sorry.
Nico, you love it so bad, it's good.
I know, it's so wrong. I forgot about that. Just hit my head.
It's so bad it's good.
Oh no.
But anyways, the point that I'm making is obviously we were talking about The Rock, and The Rock is probably the most successful, right? He's made the most money. If you're looking at it from purely like a financial aspect, The Rock is easily like the most successful wrestler come actor that.
Well, he was the biggest draw in Hollywood at one point.
However, when you sit and you actually go through The Rock's filmography, there's very few actually good movies in there. They're all very similar. They're all movies where The Rock is playing The Rock.
The Rock.
You know,
and like that's the thing. Batista in this is playing Batista.
Well, no, but this is what
he's doing the wrestler in this one, and every other one he's not.
But this is what I'm going to come on to, because obviously John Cena again is having a very successful career, probably with a bit more varying roles than The Rock does, because he does a lot of comedy movies, he does, action films, he was in not Justice League, Suicide Squad, so he's got a variation of movies. Whereas we talked about this, Batista, if you look at his filmography, he's got fantastic filmography, and he's a really great actor. And whether that's things like Knock at the Cabin that we reviewed late last year, whether that's his appearance...
I thought that was really great.
Yeah, whether that's his appearance on, what's the one that came after Knives Out? Glass Onion. Where I thought he was really fucking good in that. And a whole host of other films. Like, he's been in, James Bond movies. He's been in, he's been doing...
That's what I was about to say. He's actually a good Bond villain. He's very good as a Bond villain, even though he's got hardly any lines,
knowing that, I would probably say that he's my favourite actor from being, a professional wrestler. It was so just like, I'm so excited. I was like...
But not in this.
That's what I'm saying, because I think that's what gave me my expectations of this movie, because I was like, right, Batista's picked it, in general, it seems throughout his career that he's made smarter choices about the movies that he's in terms of how good they are.
Yeah.
So I went into this purely based on that, with an expectation that this was going to be somewhat decent. And in the end, Nico, like you say, he's just played the character of Batista, really. You know, he's played the professional wrestler, and that never works when they do that. They need it's so much better when they show their actual personality and their actual characters rather than their wrestling personas.
But this is the weird thing, right? So I was talking to folk. You know, I've got quite a wide range of ages that folk that I talk to.
I thought you was going to say friends.
It seems to
I
be.
was like, that's a barefaced lie, Nico. You have no friends.
Fucking coming from you, right? Anyway, fucking. So yeah, fucking. Basically, I noticed it was like, it seems to be. See, if you're 30, you're not a fan of this or above. But see, if you're below 30, they fucking love this shit. I don't understand
My
it.
kids did not like it.
So
They're under 30. Yeah, they've been raised with my tastes in movies and horror. So they were just my daughter just dipped on me. I'm like, don't leave me. And she was like, this is stupid, Mom. And I'm like, all right.
So you brought them up right, is what you're saying.
Basically, yes. They have taste.
I think.
But yeah, I think that's why it appeals to a lot of the younger ones have a less attention span than like we used to. So I think that's why this being so many different things in one, it appeals to them.
I don't even think it's necessarily like so many different things that makes that appeal. I think you're probably right. There is probably a slightly generational thing about this movie. I feel like in general, obviously can't speak for everyone, but in general, a younger audience is probably more likely to be kinder to this movie than, say, people of our era and older, because we obviously grew up with, you know, a whole different variety of zombie movie.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing for me is...
But I had one screaming in my face saying this was just genius. And I'm like, you're fucking shitting me, right?
Well,
oh my gosh.
They're never getting on the show.
Yeah.
No.
The thing for me is, right, so even if you just boil this down as being like this sort of action horror comedy, right? There's not enough action in it for it to be an action movie. There's not enough comedy in it to be a comedy movie. And there's not enough horror in it to be a horror movie. It just doesn't achieve anything. And
there's not enough heist in it for it to be a heist movie.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not enough anything of it to be in anything, really.
I think as well, like so obviously, like we've kind of touched upon a few things, but let's go to the comedy, because I know both of you have got points about Dieter. And Dieter, realistically, in this movie, he's our comic relief, right? He's really like, for a horror comedy though, there only really to be one character in there to like really provide that comic relief, in my opinion, is nowhere near enough. I do think he has his moments. I think he's quite funny. I think he's probably like, if I was to find a redeeming factor in this movie, Dieter would probably be it.
But he has a tragic flaw. That's my funny thing about him, is the bad thing. If you want me to go into it just really quick. And it's
go for it.
It's a little like, I don't speak German, my kids do, because they studied it. I did all Latin languages, but I do know a couple German words. They go into Dieter, they need somebody to undo this fucking lock, and they need like somebody to crack a safe, you know, and they lay out the plans, and it says Götterdämmerung at the top. I know what the fuck that means. And I was like, oh, the dusk of the gods. You're all gonna die is what it's telling you. And he doesn't think to bring that up. He, who knows German, doesn't say, hey, we're all gonna die. That's what this means, this big German word. But cool, I'll go with you. I mean, hey, chump change to a billionaire, why the fuck not? I'll die for that. Like,
no, but it's because that's
gonna happen right there.
Completes his But that's because it completes his collection from the Thieves movie, because that's the last one in the set of those safes.
Oh, okay. I see. When they recommended Army of Thieves to me at the end of this movie, I just turned the TV off.
See, that's actually decent. So I will give them that.
The problem is, no, I haven't seen Army of Thieves, so I'm just going to take your word for it, Nico. But you get to the end of this movie, you've just sat through like over 2 hours of this shit, and they go, now watch the sequel, prequel, whatever the fuck it is. You're
prequel, yeah.
You are. Who the fuck is going to do that? Like, who the fuck is
not
this?
Me? I value my time.
And gotten to the end of that movie and gone.
See, I wouldn't have watched it if I wasn't drunk watching this.
I wish I'd been drunk watching this.
I wish I'd been
But yeah,
drunk watching this.
I was not. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the day, and I was just like, well, fuck. But yeah, that just him. It says right there, and it sounds like a suicide mission anyway, but it's basically telling you this is a suicide mission, and everyone's gonna die. And he's all like, "I'm in." I'm like, "Oh, you're stupid." I'm like, "You guys can go die on your own." Bye. This is literally telling me, please don't do this. You're all gonna die.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
I think Nico's camera's frozen. He looks like he's.
But
Oh, there
In
he
the
is.
middle of
Yeah.
a sneeze, yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay, Nico? Your camera's jumping. We may lose Nico at some point. I think he's having some technical issues.
yeah, it jumped a little bit. It went a bit mental.
Okay. But yeah, so
But
obviously.
yeah, like if I hadn't watched this drunk, I don't think I would have watched Thieves, and I like Thieves.
Yeah, we've lost Nico.
There he went.
Nico will come back into the show in just a couple of seconds, so we'll just carry on without him for now, while he sorts out his technical issues. But yeah, like you've got like that's obviously such a huge flaw in this movie, like you say. You know, that's something that's really glaring. Again, we can only really go with what Nico's saying about Army of Thieves, but to me, this movie, you're not setting up any sort of franchise. You know, people aren't really going to be invested in the storyline because and a prequel because you've not given us a storyline. There's no, like you said earlier, there's no real massive plot to this.
And while I like Dieter more than any of the other characters, because he's probably the most relatable to most of us, like, you know, I'm gonna be like, protect me, I'm the nerd. I don't know how to use a gun, I don't know how to shoot, but I can do nerd shit. Like tell you what this word means, stuff like that. But there's not enough to Dieter, and he does another incredibly stupid thing later that we can't mention right now. But it's not enough for me to be interested in the character to watch a whole thing about him.
No.
Like I'm like, he's kind of a fucking idiot genius.
Yeah, that's
because
it.
He does two really stupid things that I'm like, that I don't need to watch a movie about how stupid he is.
I think the thing is as well for me in this, and Nico's just away to rejoin us, so hopefully his issues are sorted out. But I think the thing for me is in this movie is that we've got this sort of whole gang of characters, you know, and there's quite a few and quite a lot of different characters in this movie, but there's absolutely zero depth to 90% of them, like no depth at all. I think there was at one point, I can't remember her character's name at one point, but the scene where they're like trying to sneak through all the like hibernating zombies, and the bodyguard like sends her in the wrong direction. I can't remember that character's name.
You guys
I
hear
can't remember her name either.
We can hear you now, yeah.
Cool.
I can't remember. That's like up until that scene, I had no fucking idea who she was. She popped up. I watched that scene and I was like, who is she? Like, I didn't even know she was in the film before that.
I remembered her from a lens flare filter scene where she was shooting a gun when they were practicing shooting.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what her name is either because I should know that, but I don't.
But that's it.
It must not have been important.
Exactly.
So what did I miss?
I'm talking about how there's absolutely no depth to any of the characters.
And while you're gone,
Yeah.
I said Dieter, he's not enough to inspire a prequel for me because he did two stupid things. One was the Götterdämmerung, not telling them what it means. And then the second one I haven't mentioned yet, but I'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing I was trying to say about it is I've seen the prequel. He's got a set of safes that he wants to crack. That's how he gets into safe cracking. Because he just starts practicing. It's meant to be unbreakable safes. And that's the last one that he does in Army. Is the last one of the set. That's why he's like not giving a shit what it's called.
But this is what we're saying. Even though like he is the comedy relief of the movie, there's not enough depth, and he's not an interesting enough character for us to go and sit and watch another entire movie about him.
Yeah, I don't think if I hadn't like forgot what this was, I don't think I would have watched the prequel.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
That's fair. I mean, like, you've watched it. I don't know whether I'm going to go and watch the prequel or not.
I would recommend it. I think you would like it.
But, you know, I have other things.
Tom said it was good, but he also said this movie is good, so I don't see myself watching it.
I think at this point, no more recommendations.
I got him back though last night with a movie, so okay.
No more recommendations from Sean.
Yeah.
The prequel, there's no zombies, there's nothing. It's a lot tidier. It's basically a funny heist movie.
So
That's all it
essentially, they've essentially taken so making this movie, they've just taken out, or what it sounds like is they've taken out all the extra shit that's actually made this movie shit.
Yes, it's pretty much what they've done.
Okay. I mean, if I happen to find myself with a spare couple of hours at one point, and I might check it out, but I'm certainly not in any kind of rush to go.
And it's built all around Dieter, I'm not going to lie. It is pretty much him being funny through the whole thing.
Well, I mean, obviously we're talking about the comedy, but we do have, again, I've forgotten, this is what I'm saying, the characters are so stereotypical and so forgettable.
You forget their name. I've actually got them on my phone here so I can remember their names.
Why is only one woman wearing a full shirt and it's the lesbian?
Yeah, the pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our lesbian pilot character is the only one that knows how to wear sleeves. I'm like, if there are things that could bite me and turn me, I would be putting on full sleeves. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think
I'd be putting on fucking body armor. Fuck that shit.
I feel
at
like
least
I feel like they tried to make her a little bit of comic relief as well, but like they just don't give her anywhere near enough to do for it to come.
Not that funny either, to be honest.
She was definitely what I would call fodder, you know?
I mean,
like somebody to kill.
There's a reason why her appearance in the movie is relatively odd, and I'll get into that when we do the trivia, because she wasn't originally supposed to be in the movie, and they had to like superimpose her into a lot of this film. So,
oh yeah,
really?
But I'll get into that when we do the trivia, because there is reasons behind that. So I get why that's maybe like a little bit odd, but again, once again, for the money they spent making this movie, they could have done a hell of a lot fucking better than that. When we're talking about the characters, obviously you've already said there's a lot of like fodder there. To the point where none of us can really remember the names of a lot
remember
of the
Maria.
characters. I remember Dieter, and I remember is it Vandero? How you're supposed to pronounce it? And I only remember that because, you know, I've got him at my notes here, like at the because he's obviously involved in the last scene. So Vandero essentially gets trapped in the vault, and then later on in the scene, now he's like, it's such a bizarre character for me though, because he starts off supposedly being this kind of like badass, and then he has like, it's almost like buddy cop moment with Dieter, where they kind of become friends, and then Dieter saves his life, and then he pops up at the end of the movie, and we're all like, okay, so somebody at least fucking survived this film.
But he really wouldn't survive it because it's radiation. I mean, he would die right there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've played Fallout. I know about my stuff. You know, it's like, this is Fallout New Vegas right here. You know, it's like, there's no way he would survive walking out of Vegas through all that radiation from a nuke that everybody thought would be really cool. I'm quoting the movie here, to launch on the 4th of July. That sounds like some American shit right there. Yeah. So, I mean, I would be one of those people like, don't do it. Still, because, you know, a nuke's going to destroy half of the country, at least. The West Coast is gone. But yeah, this guy can walk out of it. And I'm like, come on now. You would have had to be in that vault for like 30 years before you could walk out of it.
I think the thing for me is, though, with that characters, it feels like they're trying to make him one of the more likable characters. They tried to give him this like friendship, this arc. I feel like he's probably one of the ones they're trying to make you care about, so that when he pops up at the end, we're supposed to be like, oh good, he survived, you know? Our main character died, but who gives a fuck, because this guy survived. And then they turn him into the ultimate piece of shit, because there's always that one guy in a zombie movie that hides the fucking bite.
Yeah,
I hate those cunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were like, oh, you feel so cold, I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, that was same as me. Same as me.
The thing is, though, we as fans of the genre, we know we don't need them to show us that. We know exactly what's happening as soon as he shows any signs of a symptom. We know what the fuck's happening. I was pissed. That really fucked me off. Like, this movie, right?
Oh, I was pissed about it too. I'm like, oh my God. Like, dude, this movie insisted the entire time that I'm an idiot. And I don't like that.
Yeah. I just think the thing is, like, to sit through this movie and be generally pissed off about it, and it was literally like, Zack Snyder's gone right at the very end. I've made something that's really shit, but fuck you, I'm gonna make it even worse in this final scene. It just felt like a big fucking middle finger to me as a viewer, and it really
did.
Pissed me
off. Was awful. It was an awful feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're definitely all on the same page. I thought
Yeah, I
somebody
think
would have liked it.
I think for for our first episode all together, this is
I was
Quite
afraid I
weird.
was gonna be like super negative energy
You know
because I'm
what?
like, fuck, this fucking sucks. I was like going through, like I said, the stages of grief throughout the film. I'm like, finally got to acceptance, and then I got angry all over again, and I'm like,
I think the thing for me is, Nico, I think I mentioned to you, Candy, we generally don't talk about how we feel about movies before we go into it, so everything can be nice and fresh for the episode. I thought you were gonna like this, Nico, because you're got shit taste.
well, when we
Okay.
recorded the little episode during the middle of the week, I said one thing. I said, Ian, you didn't pick Army of the Dead, did you? He's like, oh no, I picked Measure. I'm like, of course you did. I'm like, oh no,
Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna be ruining somebody's day.
Oh, but
Not
no,
at all.
I'm glad, Nico, that you're on the same page as this because, if you weren't, I think I would have some serious concerns about your mental state. What question for you guys? What is it about Zack Snyder and his obsession with zombie babies?
Yes, I was going to say something about that. And here's a little background information I happen to have. I didn't make notes for this episode because for Army and Dead because there's not a lot to note about, but in the original story, John Russo and George Romero did the original Night of the Living Dead, but they split ways, right? So Russo would go on to do the Return of the Living Dead stuff, and then Romero continued making the original of the Dead stuff. And Russo went on after they split, after Night of the Living Dead, and he wrote a book that would be the basis for like Dawn of the Dead. And there is a zombie baby in it. It's very hard to find. It's out of print. I do have a copy, but the baby in it was actually born and was fine. But this soldier's running around with them doing flips and shit, literally. And I'm like, that baby's fucking dead. And at the end, baby's turned into a zombie. Okay, cool, because he died, and everybody has the virus or whatever it is. And so in Dawn of the Dead, I hated the part with the zombie baby. It was stupid, but it was a nod to Russo's original story. In this one, it's just stupid. It's like Lion King for the fucking zombies. Like we got another zombie fetus. I knew it immediately when he was put his head down by her stomach. I'm like, oh God, she's fucking
Yep.
pregnant. Why don't you just fucking shoot me now? I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is stupid. Zack Snyder, we get it. We watched Dawn of the Dead. Please stop slapping me in the face with it.
Yeah. And there's meant to be a follow-up to this because it's not popular.
Well, I'll get into how popular this movie actually is because you're not wrong, Nico. This was like one of the biggest hits Netflix has ever had.
Yeah, it's mental.
It's gross.
It's actually insane. But I think the thing is it's like again, and it goes back to what we were talking about, like the overall concept of this movie. It's like he's trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to zombie movies.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, you go back to that sort of Night of the Living Dead movies where you've got these really sort of slow moving zombies, and then later in time we're introduced to these really sort of rapid, fast moving zombies, and then over time you got like different kinds of zombies. You've got like rage infected people that are not really zombies. You've got people who are genuinely reanimated. Like there's all these different aspects of thing, but I think bringing in the concept that they're smart, intelligent, they hibernate, they can reproduce, and understand the concept of revenge. Like you're really really like stretching my limit from
It's a reach.
Yeah, like
you're taking away all the stuff that makes a zombie fun. You know what I mean? A zombie is a brainless killing machine.
Yeah, 100%.
And now you're giving it feelings and fucking making it do the Lion King.
And honestly, one of the scariest things about a zombie to me, when I was a kid, growing up on like Romero stuff in the 80s, it was like, the scary thing about zombies is they didn't need to hibernate or sleep. They kept going. So they might be slow moving, but you had to rest at some point. That had an element of danger to it. It's like, okay, now they can hibernate. And they can fuck. Fantastic.
That's it, though. That's the whole thing about them. They're relentless. That's it. Like, it's this relentless terror that you're supposed to get from a zombie movie. And they completely eliminate that from this movie. 100%. The fact that they can also, like, reproduce and the revenge thing is just ridiculous. At this point, I don't even think, like, they're not even zombies at this point. Then this is something new. So I like, can we even call this a zombie movie at this point? I know there are like it's almost like the zombie drones, but they can also be reasoned with as well because they leave out an offering for them at the very beginning when they enter Vegas, so that they'll leave them alone. Or majority.
And not to mention that, like, our titular army of the dead leaves those 3 women, including that woman Gita that Kate was friends with, alive for whatever reason. Why would they? Because they ended up turning the like rapey guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but they leave these 3 women alive for what? What was the purpose of that?
I also like. I really dislike how they dealt with that. Like, not the fact that he got a comeuppance. I just dislike the fact that there was there was really no need for us to have a character like that in this movie either. Like, it's just yet again something that's completely crammed into this movie. It's not dealt with particularly tactfully, and then they just like kill him off, and it's just like, what was the fucking point of having that even in the film? This would have been a better
I
film.
sort of get having him there because basically you would get fucking predators like that in a situation
No,
like
I'm not
that
saying
because you always get. But yeah, I understand why it was there, but it was done shit, and it didn't need to do it.
Yeah,
But I
no,
understand why
and
it was
it just ends up being yet another aspect of this movie that's been crammed in and done poorly. And it just adds into all of those other things that are also, fucking terrible about this film.
And don't get me started on Kate, the daughter.
there.
Yeah,
That chick.
Start on Kate. Go.
Oh, please. Okay. All right. Kate, like, I understand, like, she could have existed for dramatic reasons and stuff, but to literally go and get everyone killed but herself, including the person that she was sure was alive, which didn't make any sense that Gita was still alive. It's been days, right? It doesn't make sense that she's alive. She's willing to get all these people killed. The one rule her dad, stepdad, whatever, had for her, don't stray from the group. She strays from the group. And literally, the helicopter pilot is saying, we only have 9 minutes. And even at that point, you're not going to outfly a fucking nuke, man. Like, come on. But still, like, oh, better hurry. I'm like, it's 9 minutes, man. I'm going to see how far I can go. Bye. Go deal with her. Because she literally gets a lot of people killed. And for this one woman, and she gets the woman killed too, who the woman's miraculously alive, but she gets that woman killed anyway. And it's like, what was the point of you going?
Yeah.
I want to pick
if
up
my kids pulled some shit like that, I would have been like, young lady, get the fuck over there and you stay there and you're not coming with me. I will kick your ass.
I want to get a touch on your point about, is it ever actually explained why they leave Gita alive? Is that explained?
Because I didn't understand. I'm like, oh, she is alive. Okay. How did she know where this woman is? She just, I guess she's in there with all the main zombies or something. And
she managed to get past them fine. How? You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. Like, Vegas is, a big place. They literally could be anywhere.
Yeah,
no, I mean, it's just a strip. That's what everyone thinks.
I was just there in October. And it's like, I was just at like I was in the oldest casino hotel there, the El Cortez, which is kind of like at the end of Fremont Street. I mean, they're just, all you have to do is walk a mile and you've passed like 50 casinos practically. I mean, there's so many places and so many things to do. Like, that place is fucking huge. It's huge. Yeah.
I just, so like, again, yet another aspect of this movie that's just been unexplained. And then they also tried to give us, speaking of Kate, and, Batista, Scott. His character's called Scott. So
Scott, say Batista.
He's our main character. And I'll call him Batista. It's easier. They also tried to, like, give us this really intricate backstory about them and, like, their troubles with each other and this really troubled past that they've had. But again, never really go into it. And then they try to, like, have this sort of redemption arc with them where they, like, make up and everything's fine. And I think the scene at the end where Batista, is dying and they have this sort of really corny, cringeworthy, like, makeup chat. And it's just, are we supposed to care?
Wrenched completely from Planet Terror, by the way.
Yeah, like...
I thought I recognized it.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're gonna finally tell, because they're the one guy's died. Like, are you gonna finally tell me your secret of your barbecue? And that's what they talk about. It's like, okay, so you've seen Planet Terror, Zack Snyder. You show me all the things you've seen, and none of your shit is as good as any of that.
Well, speaking of things you've seen,
that was annoying me because I thought I did recognize it, and for ages I was like, I'm just fucking mistaken.
Planet Terror.
Well, thank you for that. That's fucking. That's good.
Well,
Because it's been ages since I've seen that.
Speaking of, movies that Zack Snyder has seen, did anyone else also pick up on the fact that this movie is pretty much a much shitter carbon copy to Aliens?
Yeah. There are a lot of like little Easter eggs, I think,
I don't even
involving
think
it.
it goes.
I just need somebody like game over, man, game over.
Honestly, I think it goes beyond Easter eggs though when it comes to Alien. Like if you actually look at the sort of concepts of this movie, obviously with minor differences, it's pretty much the same. Group going in to find missing people. You've got like one person in the group who's fucking everyone else over. You've got the person in the group who was originally fucking everyone else over, but ended up with like a nice ending. But then this movie gave them a really cunty ending. Even to the point where you've got the fucking pilot, and then them die. Like, I think this movie is a carbon fucking copy of Aliens, just with not zombies.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
This is what it felt like when I was talking about.
I'm not going to fucking say anything against that. You're fucking spot on.
I usually
it's like pieces of other movies, pieces of video games, because I saw definite references to Fallout New Vegas. When in the strip of New Vegas, one of the casinos in Fallout New Vegas is Gomorrah, and
Gomorrah.
There's Gomorrah in this. There's Left 4 Dead. It's haunting us. Whatever. I played Left 4 Dead games, so Left 4 Dead references. There's pieces of all kinds of pop culture thrown in there, like this. Like, I'm gonna throw everything in the zeitgeist at this and see if it'll work. And people might be tricked into thinking it might be an original idea or something. There aren't any original ideas.
And listen, I have
no
issues.
That's what I said at the start.
I have no issues with Easter eggs being in there and references from video games and references from other movies, because us as fans, we generally fucking really like that shit. And I think had this been even just a half decent movie, we probably would have been sitting here being like, how fucking cool was that? Like, they referenced Fallout New Vegas in this movie. Fallout New Vegas, one of my favorite games of all time, by the way. So,
that's my favorite. Yeah,
it's my favorite Fallout game. Anyway,
but as I was saying, exactly as what you were saying there. It's as if he's trying to do a Jason Bolt. He's chucked all the fucking paint at the thing and went, well, that'll do.
Yeah. 100%. Now I'm an artist.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Splat. Look, it's what?
Oh dear. Well, we've gone through all my bullet points because I really didn't want to talk about this movie for too long because it's upsetting to me. Nico, anything we've missed that you want to talk about? And then Candy will open up the floor for you.
Nah, no, really, because it seemed like it was going to be a good movie, and that's what's even more disappointing. You know what I mean? Because I did like the start, and the thing that got me the most is if I hadn't seen that bit, I wouldn't have recommended this at all. Like I wouldn't have had this on the podcast at all. And it's upsetting that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely fair, though. Like, if you're going into something thinking it's going to be one thing, and then, listen, sometimes, there have been times where I've sort of done that and been relatively pleasantly surprised when it turns out to be something slightly different. This is definitely not one of those cases.
No.
Okay. This is one that I could tell from the trailer, because I do remember when it came out and Sean was interested in watching it. I watched the trailer. I said, that's going to suck. Just because I could tell, I'm a writer. I'm like, there is just way too many things going on in this that cannot possibly all be crammed into one movie. And then the movie's even worse than you think it's going to be. I mean, I was like, I've sat through some really shitty movies. I can do this. It turned out like, man, my resolve was gone. I'm like, can I take a smoke break? And you don't pause it. Sometimes I have to judge like how many times I want to smoke a cigarette when I'm watching a movie, like how bad the movie is.
New cigarette rating coming soon.
Yeah, I'm a social smoker mostly, but yeah. So when I'm on podcasts, I smoke a lot, but I don't usually smoke like that. But the thing is another thing, the Dieter thing. Okay, so Dieter has the time when I was saying his second tragic flaw. These are the things I think is funny because this movie sucks so bad. And it's because I don't understand. Okay, we got the, like I mentioned, him not mentioning what the Götterdämmerung means. But then also, here's my newfound buddy cop friend, and I'm going to save his life. He has enough time to get the fuck in there. He has enough time to get in that fucking vault. And he's just like, I'm gonna die for this. I cracked the safe or whatever his fucking life's mission was. I guess he did it because he was like, I'm willingly going to go out here and die. Like there was
Yeah,
plenty of time to get the fuck in that vault. And that made me so mad. I'm like, he's only halfway decent character and he's still not great, but like he's relatable
yeah.
in certain ways. Like that would be the me of the group. Like protect me, I'm a nerd. I can do stuff. I know things. Um,
Oh, I thought of something that I forgot. What did you guys think of the tiger thing?
Oh, I fucking hated the tiger. I actually forgot all about
I
it.
hated it
I thought it,
so much.
I thought it looked
'Cause
terrible.
it really did
Yeah,
look like shit. The horse looked better, but the tiger pissed me off because with the coyote, she's all like, well, we don't fuck with Valentine the tiger. But then later on, the one guy starts shooting at it, the clearly evil guy that they take with them. Surprise, surprise, he fucks him over, but he starts shooting at him and she's like, oh, I guess we'll shoot at the tiger now. I'm like, okay.
yeah. Go against your own rule. Yeah, but I thought it looked fucking horrible.
It
Like
looked
did.
terrible.
it looks so bad.
It was,
And it
yeah.
was clearly a showpiece. They
Yeah,
were counting on that to look super cool. And you can
yeah,
tell by the time devoted to it and sort of guards and runs patrol. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is
Yeah.
fucking dumb.
yeah. That was the only thing that I forgot to bring up. Sorry, but yeah, totally. Because there's the whole bit where you see the tiger and it's standing next to the guy and everything, and it's meant to be this is the cool scene, but and you just look at it and you're like, that is one of the worst CGIs I've seen in God knows how long.
Yeah. No, I
And
completely agree.
I'm glad we got a tiger death. Like not that the tiger died, but obviously it was already dead. It's a zombie tiger. We're talking. Yeah, I'm getting confused in my own trying to get caught up in the plot. But like when it kills the bad guy,
Don't.
yeah, I hurt myself doing that. Yeah, like when it kills the bad guy, you're like, cool, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be cool at this point, but it's not been cool once.
Yep.
I mean, when we got that, I had completely forgotten about the tiger. This move again, it tries to cram so much in that every time it crams something new into my brain, something else from this movie just like left it. And the tiger was definitely one of them. When that tiger wasn't on the screen, I forgot all about the fucking tiger. So yeah, and it looked shit. It really was like they absolutely were trying to make it this sort of big set piece of the movie. I felt like it was maybe something they thought they could maybe market around, but it was not good. I think the last thing for me as well before we move on is we get this really really long fucking movie, and when they have to go and save Kate and Gita, and obviously by this point the like lead fucking zombie has become this like unstoppable killing machine. There's so many times in this movie they could have just fucking killed him, by the way. Like, don't even get me started on that. They could have just taken him
Yeah,
out.
I
So fucking
lost
easy.
track of the numbers after a while.
But the whole Batista having to go in and save them was so, and I feel really shitty saying this because I did not want this to be any longer, but that ending was so rushed. That whole sort of final sequence was so fucking rushed that you've literally just spent all this. Nico?
Yeah, it's like you said it was totally rushed. Like that's the only bit they should have invested time in at that point. Like the whole middle bit is just like fucking filler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's so much fucking filler in this film. It's garbage. I think.
Yeah, for it to be that long and then to still not get your story really resolved and told. What pissed me off most at the end, because I was fucking, like I said, I've been through all the different stages: bargaining, grief, anguish, sadness, acceptance, start over again. But with Tig Notaro, who played I can't remember her name in the movie, but she was our helicopter pilot mechanic, saying, okay, we're down to 9 minutes, hurry up. And then they're literally like maybe 60 seconds, they gotta fly out there. I'm like, she doesn't really think she can outfly the nuke, right? And then when they go down, I'm like, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen there? Like, really? Or like, I don't like when people self-sacrifice if like it's stupid. And like and the coyote self-sacrifices, it's like, I thought it was a dumb way. I would have got on the fucking helicopter and took my chances. You're probably gonna die anyway. You didn't have to die like that. Like, I don't know. It was just stupid.
That fucking final. Speaking about comparisons to aliens, even the fact that the fucking helicopter was gone and then showed up That
Yep.
oh, I was so
I
mad.
called that too. I said, okay,
Yeah.
and here it comes. And 3, 2.
Yeah.
So predictable
So fucking mad.
because we've seen it before, haven't we?
Yes.
Seen it done a
we
million
absolutely
fucking times.
And seen it done better.
have.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Before we move on, guys, last call for you two. Anything else you'd like to highlight about this movie?
No, definitely not now.
No, you're done. Candy?
Yeah.
I think it's shitty that Kate lived when she got everybody else killed.
Yeah. No.
That was bullshit. And I think I was supposed to sympathize with her, but I didn't because she was dumb. I don't sympathize with dumb people.
Yeah. So all of the characters in this film. The thing is,
Stupid.
Well, right, see, I went into this recording thinking that I was going to try and be like fair and level-headed about this movie. I have definitely talked myself down to a much lower score than I originally intended to give this.
I'm thinking my score is still too high.
Oh, Jesus.
But there's probably there's at least 4 characters in this movie that we've not even talked about. You know?
Oh, Maria. I did want to mention something about Maria.
Yeah.
Batista's like I guess they had something going on after Kate's mom died and then he ran off or whatever. She goes on the fucking heist in zombie world where Nuke's about to drop because she loves him. And I'm like, I'm a big romantic, but I would have been like, fuck that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, and she's like, I don't
if
even
he
want the
comes
money.
back, that'll be fine.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even want the money. I just want you. I'm like, you fucking dumb bitch.
I was like, "Ugh."
And then they snap her head, and I'm like, well, okay, that you deserve that, girl.
But then, you know, we've also got we haven't even talked about technically our sort of villain of the movie, Tanaka, who sends them on this sort of wild goose chase suicide mission because he's a fucking nothing character. You know, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
There's no comeuppance for it. Like, it's just
He's not even evil enough.
no.
Yeah.
And there's
Because clearly a guy who's got billions of dollars isn't going to send somebody for a couple million. That's like nothing to him.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
obviously a cover for something else. And especially when he's like, and you're taking this fucking dude with you. It's like, nope.
It's when he's trying to get the head and he's like, this is worth billions of dollars. Like, fucking, and you're like, oh,
But then,
here we go.
but
Fucking, this is.
We've also got Guzman, who's like our YouTube zombie killer as well.
See, I understand why he goes. Good footage.
Sure. You've also got a Lily.
He seemed like kind of a dumbass.
You've got
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
You've also got this.
He's Logan Paul, is he?
You've also got this Lily character who is supposed to be like a badass, but randomly leads teams into Las Vegas for no real apparent reason. I don't fucking like. There's
Is that the coyote one?
Yeah, she's the coyote.
Yeah, I didn't even know she had a
What was
fucking
her
name.
accent, by the way? Because I couldn't pinpoint it.
I have no clue. I stopped. trying.
It sounded kind of Slavic, like maybe Russian or something at some points, and sometimes it sounded like, you know, a typical like Latin, you know, kind of accent. But I couldn't really pinpoint where the fuck she was from. I was like, I guess it doesn't matter anyway. I need something to focus on.
But yeah, there's so many of these fucking characters, and if we actually sat and like broke it down and had to speak about each one, I'd like to say this episode would take like 3 fucking hours, but there's probably only about 3 minutes of things we could say about each fucking character.
For each one, yeah.
They're so fucking shallow, and even then, that's still
They're not even one-dimensional. They're half.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Even then, that's still not all the characters, because we've barely mentioned fucking Gita, we've barely mentioned the bodyguard, we've barely mentioned like the rapey police officer. Like this, there's so much that like in this movie, and none of it's good. So
and how little we've talked about Batista's character, because there's not any dimension there either.
No, there's none. There's absolutely none.
They tried, sort of, I guess.
Okay.
They tried badly.
Right. I'm gonna call this a portion of the discussion here, because I think I feel it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to get myself a bit pissed off about this film.
Yeah, my blood pressure's going.
So we're gonna move on, and we're gonna go into our next segment and talk about some trivia.
The cat came in. Sorry.
Okay. As always, we'll start off with the finances of this movie. So according to IMDb, this movie was made for $70 million.
What a waste.
Like, what the
But
fuck?
it's got a massive following. It's
But
so disturbing.
it's such a waste of money. They've clearly put.
I agree,
they've put,
but
Give that to an independent filmmaker who's going to make something I might enjoy.
you know, look at all these fucking classic movies that we love. Not even just the classic movies, but even just movies over the last like 7-8 years that have been massive successes. And look at the money that they've been made for. It's not even a fucking portion of that. This isn't even us going, you
Yeah.
know, oh well, back in the 80s and the 70s, they made films out of no money because it was different. Like, we've made advances since then. You can still make films for no fucking money and come out with something that's really fucking great. And
Terrifier.
I'm glad you brought it up because, you know, I
here
was
we go.
certainly about to. Nico, shut up. But no, Terrifier's a great example of it. It was made for 30 fucking...
Yeah, I get that, but no.
But okay, Nico, but if you've made a movie for $30,000 or $70 million and you put the two movies side by side, it's you know, it's night and day.
No contest.
I get you, but it's fucking. I genuinely don't know how they got the money for this movie.
Netflix.
You know what I mean? Because
Netflix throws money at shit and then cancels their good shit to throw money at shit.
Yeah,
like
they
this.
do. Like Mystery Science Theater, I'm never forgiving you, Netflix. Eat a dick.
Obviously, because this is a Netflix film, there's no finances on how much money this made because it didn't hit theaters. But in its first 4 weeks on Netflix, it is estimated that this movie got 72 million views, making it one of the most successful debuts on the platform. So
That's a hate crime.
72 million people watch this, and that's just in its first 4 weeks. That's not including, you know, the weeks and months and now a couple of years that's gone since then.
it's meant to have stupid figures for the rewatch as well.
I don't understand it, but yeah,
I don't understand the rewatch value.
There really wasn't a watch value, let alone a rewatch value.
That's what I mean.
That opening sequence, the big sort of opening sequence, plus the song with Viva Las Vegas, those two things combined took them 5 weeks to film.
Fuck.
Like, I don't know what they were doing. They spent so much time on like, I mean, maybe that's why that's the only like half decent part of this movie is because they spent 5 weeks. I mean, maybe they just spent like fucking 4 days on the rest of the fucking film. I don't know, but that's a ridiculous that's a ridiculous amount of time to spend on the movie. This is Zack Snyder's first non-superhero movie since Sucker Punch in 2011. So maybe, you know, maybe he just did like Dawn of the Dead and was like, I'm never gonna make a good non-superhero movie again.
Basically,
I don't know. I've kind of forgotten Sucker Punch existed.
It seems like he blew his load with Dawn of the Dead for me personally. That was his first, you know, as a director, and then after that, it's been like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Fucking mental. Like.
Officially,
but I can't believe the sequel. There's a sequel coming out for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's either this year or next year. It's meant to be coming out, and folk I know are just like going mad for it. They're like, can't wait for it and shit. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, really. But you could see that it was set up for that. Like, oh, we're in Mexico City and it's going to be here, and it's like, great.
But even then, that's so been done to death as well, you know. And the thing that immediately came to my mind was 28 days later, you know, in that end scene where they show up in Paris, and you know, it's supposed to be like the continuation of that. And then we got 28 weeks later, and it didn't fucking reference any other place even once. And
what's the other one? 28 years later, there's going to come out or some shit.
They can stop now.
The rumors of a third one coming from that franchise have been going about since the second one came out. But I have heard there are rumors of it resurfacing in the last couple of months. So I don't know how much truth there is to them.
So I thought there was definitely meant to be coming.
Yeah. So we talked about John Cena. Dave Bautista actually turned down the role of Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad to work on this film, and then it's the perfect example of him actually making a terrible choice over John Cena.
I know, because it's the only one that fucking Cena did well.
Yeah.
I must say, I can't see him playing the Peacemaker. It's definitely more suited to John Cena, considering like having to like cold deliver hilarious lines. Like, I would live on an island of dicks or something, whatever it is he
I
says.
don't know, but then,
I would smack a whole island of dicks.
but
That's what.
but also Batista's so fucking good as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy that you could. I could see it.
But to be honest, Drax would be better for John Cena since you can't see him.
Oh. Okay. We talked about. I'm just gonna pretend you didn't fucking say that. We talked about. We talked about like this movie not having anywhere near enough action, to justify the length and everything that's in it.
But yet it still had too much.
The official zombie body count of this movie is 130. They killed 130 zombies in this movie, and it feels like they killed about 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds right.
It doesn't feel like a lot.
Last piece of trivia for me, and this goes back to what I was hinting at earlier. So Dave Bautista, during filming, never ever met Tig Notaro. Even though in a lot of scenes they obviously are appearing next to each other in scenes. Notaro was inserted digitally after replacing the now disgraced comedian Chris D'Elia? I've never heard of this comedian before. But this there was multiple accusations against them of predatory sexual behavior, and so they were removed from filming. Tig Notaro was cast and had to essentially be put into this superimposed during reshoots. She had to shoot all of her scenes alone as a precaution because this movie was filmed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and Notaro is a cancer survivor, so she's like that. I think that's it. At least there's a logical explanation for why that seems to be a bit out of place.
Yeah.
That, but on a $70 million budget as well, I feel like they probably could have done that a bit better too.
Never knew that.
Yeah, there you go.
In a way, that kind of also copies Aliens in a way. I know that's messed up, but my man James Remar was in Aliens, and then they had to recast him, and in some scenes you can still kind of see him.
Yeah.
So yeah, still copying Aliens even there.
I mean, if you're gonna copy a movie, it's a good movie to copy, but at least do it.
True.
At least do it well. That's it for me for trivia. Anything else? Do you guys have anything that you know about this film that you'd like to bring up?
Everything I know I brought up.
Nice. Nico?
No.
Nope. Okay, then let's move on to our final segment. I can feel you, Nico.
Just cut to the scores.
I just don't want to fucking talk about this shit anymore. Let's go on.
Feel the hatred.
Let's go on to
embrace the hatred.
Our final segment, which is the ratings and the reviews. And always, we'll start off with the critics' scores. IMDb have given this a 5.8 out of 10. Metacritic have given this a 5.7. Guys, what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes critics scored this movie?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. I'm not really good at guessing this because I tend to think differently than the people who rate it. So we're talking about critics, not audience, right?
Critics first.
We
will go on to the audience once we do the critics.
Okay, critics. I'm hoping they have good sense and maybe put this at 25.
25%. Nico?
See, I'd say about 40.
You're going for 40. Nico is going to take this one 67%.
Fuck
Oh my
off.
God, why?
67%. They've rated this. This is a fresh rated movie. The critics' consensus: an ambitious, over-the-top zombie heist mashup. Army of the Dead brings Zack Snyder back to his genre roots with a suitably gory splash.
Fuck.
That's depressing.
Yeah. So we'll move on because that is depressing. And what do we think the audience has scored this movie? Nico, you can go first for this one.
See, I know how much of a fan base it's got, so I'll say about 70.
70%. Candy?
I'll do a Price is Right thing and go 69.
Dude.
You should have priced is right him the other way. Nico's going to say this one again.
I did want to be right about that.
70.
Yeah, I thought I underestimated it, to be honest.
75% they've given this movie. Audience consensus: there's plenty of build-up before there's plenty of build-up before the all-out action arrives. But
Plenty of chaos.
But Zack Snyder's second zombie movie gives you characters you can root for and a solid cast led by a terrific Dave Bautista.
Are they
That's
serious?
funnier than the fucking film.
Yeah, like what? No, what did they watch?
That's fucking awful.
It's terrible. It's terrible. One thing I will say, because we'll go on to our listeners' opinions now, is that our listeners, I feel like, we're much more in tune with how we feel of this movie. As always, we throw it out to our followers, listeners, and ask for you guys to give us your scores and reviews, and we'll read a few of them out now. So we've got Neurospiced, who gives this a 5. Fun, but pretty forgettable. I enjoyed it at the time, but I've forgotten just about everything. That's fair.
That's a lucky thing.
Follows like what we were saying.
Yeah. Stew World Order says it's about a 4. Not scary enough to merit its lack of joy. Not funny enough to earn its lack of scares. Army of the Dead is just another self-unaware zombie flick that doesn't really excel at anything. Absolutely fair.
Pretty well said.
Dissect That Film says decent effects can't save this overly long bore fest with zombies. It's definitely the worst Zack Snyder movie I've seen.
Where was the decent effects like?
I mean, like, some of the effects are okay. Like, it's not like the tiger was terrible. I think some of the effects were fine. But
as my kids would say, it's alright.
Yeah, like it's
fine. It's just okay. For the budget they had, it should have been a lot better than fucking
100%.
okay.
100%. Alaska Girl gives it a 5.5. I like the way they did the zombies and liked most of the mains. It does have issues. Characters were very stereotyped and some bits just cringeworthy bad, but I can overlook them for the most part because I can watch damn near anything with zombies and love Dave Bautista. Fair enough. And then our friend Newman at the Movies for Days podcast, coming in to save the day. 2 out of 10. Cringe, eye-rolling dialogue, annoying look-at-me characters, plot that badly steals a shocking amount from Aliens, thank you, did nothing with the premise of zombies in Vegas, wasn't expecting much from this, and was still disappointed. One of the worst films to come out that year, easily. So,
it's like he read my thoughts.
I know, right? On average, taking into account all of the scores that were cast for this movie, our listeners scored Army of the Dead 3.7 out of 10. And let me just say that that score of 3.7 out of 10 is the second lowest score that our listeners have ever given a movie we've covered.
Well done. Well done.
The only movie they've scored lower than that was Attack of the Herbals, Nico. But all of those terrible movies that we've covered...
I suggested that too.
Yeah, that was true. All of the movies, like all of the lower scored movies we've covered before, Lost Boys, The Tribe, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, they all gave them higher scores than this movie, 3.7. So
sorry, that's hilarious.
So
so there's real comedy right there.
There we go. So that just leaves the three of us. Nico, on a scale of 0 to 10, what are you rating Army of the Dead?
Well, that's what I was laughing at, because I'm giving it a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Why a 3.5?
Just because of the start, and I genuinely do like theatre. And I think if I hadn't watched the prequel, it would have been a lot lower.
Fair enough.
So it's getting side points from its prequel, basically.
Oh man, that's not fair.
On that note, Candy, on a scale of 0 to 10,
well,
what are you going to rate Army of the Dead?
I feel like I'm being overly generous, but I did lower it half a point. I gave it 1.5. It's trash, and I don't like people disrespecting the zombie genre in such a way. It's such a huge downfall for me because a lot of Romero purists are like, why do you defend, Dawn of the Dead? How, Dawn of the Dead's like your favorite horror movie of all time. I'm like, but the remake was kind of fun, saw it in theaters. It was a really good time. I still go to bat for it, but now it's going to be a little less spit on the bat. Like if I knew it was going to devolve into this bullshit, I wouldn't have been so nice to Dawn of the Dead. This is gonna make him think he was one of the zombies now. The next fucking Romero, you're not, bro. This is stupid. It made me feel stupid. All the characters were stupid. Everything about it. I mean, I'm not just saying that like they were stupid because I didn't like them. They were genuinely idiots.
Yeah.
Like starting and even the beginning wasn't enough to get me interested. I immediately knew the bomb was gonna fall on me as soon as everybody's like, huh? what? Like suddenly I don't understand words and how they work and that they have meanings and that I need to convey this to people over there because bad things are going to happen. But I'm going to wait 5 minutes, see what fucking happens. Like I hated it already. And then I'm like, you can't save this, but I guess I have to watch you try. And it got worse somehow. I don't know how you get worse from there, but it managed. So the 1.5 is very generous.
That's absolutely fair.
I do not recommend.
Absolutely fair. Absolutely
Understandable.
valid. So I came into this, as I've sort of briefly mentioned, thinking that I was gonna try and be like kind to this film, in that I maybe was gonna try. I don't know what it is, because I hated this movie, but there was something part. I don't know whether it's because I really do love Batista. I love zombie movies.
I do too.
I was gonna try and be like nice to this movie and be a little bit more generous than I tend to. That I've become to known to be on this podcast, because Nico, you are generally a bit more of a generous rater than I am, but in the most part. But our discussion is definitely. I think I've knocked at least a point off of what I was going to give, maybe even 2. It depends on how I was planning on feeling at the end of the episode. But I'm going to split you guys right down the middle. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10. I kind of like the opening scene. Some of the effects are fine. Dieter is at least kind of likable, and that's about it. So 2.5. There's nothing else to do. Like we've gone into it in so much depth. There's so many characters in this movie that have zero depth, but they're all somehow, massively stereotypical. The fact that the effects are just fine is really shitty considering the budget of this movie. The storyline's been done before. It's like taken about 6 or 7 different storylines from different movie, probably Aliens most egregiously, and has done it all worse. There's so few redeeming factors in this movie. The fact that there's a prequel.
I would have gave it a 2.5 as well. By the way, that's what I would have done. But if I hadn't seen the prequel.
I was sitting at a 2, and then we started talking, and then it went lower.
So yeah, all of those things, like there's nothing for me to make me like there's nothing that will make me go and watch this movie again. There's nothing.
Also, a funny thing I wanted to I'm not hope I'm not interrupting your review. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm bad about that.
No, you're fine. Go.
The reason I showed up with wet hair to this is because I was laying in the bathtub thinking about like a way to try and make this a little bit more positive. Because I was like, I'm gonna go in there brutal. I gotta make this positive. So I went over long in the bath and got out and didn't have time to dry my hair. And I was like, shit, I never found a way to make this good. So I put in the effort too, but I couldn't in the end like make it nice.
Well, I mean, you like that speaks volumes, because I feel like we do all, I think all of us over our sort of podcasting careers have tried to find the good of things. With the majority of movies that we cover, don't get me wrong, there's been a couple of movies me and you, Nico, have covered where that there's just no redeeming qualities, that you've been really negative on, I've been really negative on, and that's just it. And the fact that I don't really think there's not one thing in this movie that I can say, you know what, they did that really well. If everything else was terrible, they did one thing really well, and I can't think of what that is. So I think that speaks volumes about this movie for me. With that being said,
for me it's Dieter.
That's
fine. For me it's Dieter.
That's fine, but like Dieter.
But that's it.
Dieter is probably the best aspect of this movie, but as I said, it's a flawed character with big plot holes, and it's not great.
Knew he was going into his death.
Yeah. Anyways, all of our scores, combined with the critic scores on our followers, gives Army of the Dead an average score of 4.6 out of 10. And it means it is in 89th place of the now 96 movies that we have covered on the show. So it is right down there. It's a bottom 10 movie. It is right down there at the bottom.
Nice.
This is
Should I be rooting for that? Because I'm rooting for that.
This may hurt your soul. I'm going to hurt your soul a little bit, Candy, though.
Oh, no.
Because it means it's one place below Innocent Blood, and it's one place above Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
No! Halloween 3 shouldn't be down there, and I think you know that.
I know it should be lower.
No!
Oh no! We were getting on so well! No!
It is the worst Halloween film ever.
Listen, I got a kink that you don't know about. I'm into really old men. and Tom Atkins
You
is
old
it for
creepy
me. If
bastard.
Tom Atkins is in a movie, I'm gonna score that pretty high. Plus, it's my favorite Halloween movie. Do I think it's the best movie ever made? No, but it doesn't deserve to be down there.
Uh,
Absolutely not.
Ian, it's okay. When you have a daughter, I'll shag her when you die. How's that sound?
This episode was going so well, guys. What's happened?
Oh my god.
You can't tell me that's not the creepiest part of that fucking movie, because everything else is shit.
Welcome to the family, Candy.
I've got no strong opinion on that movie, I swear.
What I have said is, Candy, you are perfectly willing. I'm perfectly happy for you to go and rank the movies that we have covered and rate them.
True.
And we can my plan is maybe if you want to do that, and we can just like reveal a few ratings like on each episode until you get caught up.
Okay, yeah, I will absolutely do that.
And then we can like readjust. So you have the opportunity. You will have.
And
the
I'm
opportunity.
usually a pretty generous rater, even if I don't like a movie. You have to really go out of your way for me to rank you this low. Like this movie, I felt like it just went out of its way.
I feel like
It
that's
gave me no
I
choice.
feel like that's possible though.
It's gonna give Lost Boys a 3 for revenge, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I fucking hate Lost Boys. That's coming. Not a secret that I hate Lost Boys. Not a secret.
Greatest
Shining.
80s movie ever.
But you will have the opportunity to bump Halloween 3 up the leaderboard.
And Near Dark is a better movie than Lost Boys.
Nah. It's close. But yeah.
Yeah, it is close. It is close. I think it's for me. It depends what sort of mood I'm in when it comes to those two. But,
they're definitely different vibes.
Yeah.
I love Near Dark, but yeah, Lost Boys over Near Dark.
But the good thing is that feelings about Halloween 3 aside, is that Army of the Dead is a bottom 10 movie for us.
Well, yay.
So
that's a win.
We'll at least give it that.
We agreed on that. It was all fine.
Yeah, we agreed on that. That's good.
So we'll end on that note.
I was afraid I was going to go into this and hurt your feelings.
No, that's fine.
No,
I feel like
not
coming
at
in though, like you say, because it is really difficult, Candy. We've recorded a lot of episodes together across podcasts, and I feel like I don't think I have ever known you to give a movie that low a score. Even some of the ones that you actively dislike. I mean, I'm sure I can think of a few movies.
I try really hard. There are some in infamy, like children shouldn't play with dead things. Like, no, I will never ever watch that movie again. I gave it and I gave like a Hard Rock Zombies a 1. Yeah. So when I go pretty hard, Wishmaster, I was pretty evil too. I gave it like a 3. I usually am like, oh, I'll give it like an 8. Why not? I'm in a good mood tonight, you know.
So yeah,
I'm usually generous.
So I think that's a good place for us to start though, because we've started you off like down there, and it can only go up from here. And maybe. I'm pretty sure it will go up from here, because next week on the show, it's my pick. It's the final pick before we enter our new rotation, and we're talking all about Misery next week. And if nothing else, I'm gonna be a lot higher on that movie. I know Candy will be a lot higher on that movie. Nico, I'm pretty sure
I'm familiar with your score on it. Yes.
You know, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll be talking about that next week, but thank you to both you guys.
I'm not a fan of the writer on that, so I don't know how I'll score it. You know?
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Okay, I was like, no. Actually, I'm coming to Scotland and I'm going to kick your fucking ass.
Wow.
It's the total opposite, trust me.
I was like, no, that can't be right.
No, it's definitely not right. I can't be sarcastic sometimes. Sorry.
You know, sometimes when you get like that rush of adrenaline and you get really hot, I just got that there.
You're like, oh shit,
a demon.
But if anyone would like to support this podcast across our social media platforms, you can do so. We're on X at Damn Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to us on our Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. I almost fucked it up there. I managed to catch myself. That's good. But Nico and Candy, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Candy,
thanks for having me on.
Happy to be here.
I hope your first official episodes went as well as you hoped it would.
It was fun.
We've got many more to come. Thank you to everyone who downloads and listened and watched this podcast across various platforms. We really appreciate you guys. And until next week on Pod of the Damned, just remember, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.